Members of the public were provided with the following methods to watch and/or participate in this open meeting. You can attend in person at the North Dumfries Community Complex. You can attend electronically via Zoom to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. You can watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on the Township's YouTube page. You can submit written comments to the clerk's division that were provided to council members and will form part of the public record. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank everyone for joining us this evening. We appreciate your participation. As we come together to share the community, I ask that we create a welcoming and positive environment for everyone that includes respect, that we listen to each other with care, speak thoughtfully, and engage kindly with one another. Kindness, that we treat everyone, council, staff, and the public with respect and understanding. Inclusion, that we embrace diverse perspectives and respect each other's opinions. Together we can make this meeting space one where respect, kindness, and inclusion are at the heart of everything we do. Behavior that is disrespectful, disruptive, aggressive, or intimidating will result in those individuals being asked to leave. I'd now like to call the meeting to order, and can I have the agenda, please, Councilor Rowley?
Moved by myself, Senator Council Tilly, that council is off of June 2nd, 2025, council agenda as presented with the following addendum. One, at 3 pieces of correspondence received for item 11.2.4, report number PD 36/2025, removal of property from the township's heritage inventory. And 2, add mayor and council report item 12.1, councilor officer comment regarding the ACC funding models and the ACC major rehabilitation project for the August 13th, 2025 special council meeting.
All those in favor? Good, thank you. I'd now like to lead the Indigenous acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. And a lot's happening right now in the Indigenous stepping up and want their voices heard and want representation. And it'll be an interesting thing to watch. And if we can watch with objectivity, with eyes wide open, it'll be another journey on our reconciliation. Let's stop and think about this. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest to General Branch thereof? Councilor Rowley.
Yes, other conflict with 11.2.1, 992 Hall Street is a property that I own.
Thank you. No doubt. Any requests to lift the items from the consent agenda? Councilor Wells.
I just have one question with relation to, I think it's 10.1.2.
Go ahead and ask your question. That's correspondence.
Yeah. No, that's with regards to the development charges we reserve fund, the treasurer's report. I just noticed that the fire services were in deficit at the end of the year. Was that something that was planned and just the result of all the renovations that were done?
Go ahead, Ms. Brooks.
Madam Mayor, through you to Councilor Wells. The cost in the development charges study was less than what was anticipated for the actual cost. So it has resulted in a timing difference of when we've collected funds versus the cost of the renovation. So yes, because of the renovations of the fire hall, it has gone negative at this one.
Councilor Williams.
Thank you. I think that I just wanted to know if there was any, also if there was therefore any need to go ahead and top up the fire reserve, but I guess we're done the renovation, so we should be fine. That's just my question.
Yeah. And as I understand it, the development charges that come in will offset that. So it's a balancing of waiting till the development charges come in. Council, Miss Brooks, please, and then CEO McNamee.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. We also, with the next the next version of the development charges study, we are allowed to take that difference and add it into the additional project costs, so we will recoup that money.
CEO McNally, did you have a comment?
No, Madam Mayor, that's what I was gonna say. So there's two things. When we start the study, which has commenced, we give them all of our current account balances. Because if there's a positive cash flow or a negative cash flow, they have to take that into account as they look to the calculations going forward. We also take all of our projects for undertaken, between 2020 to present period. And if the deliverable was above what was in the background report, that's that adjustment of gap, positive or negative, is accounted for in calculations. So, to map treasurer's comment, this will all zero out in the next version of the development chart filing, and we're bringing that report to council all of 2025 for implementation for year end 2025.
Any other questions before we go on? Councillor Austin, the motion, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Rowland, that the following information items as listed in the June 2nd, 2025 consent agenda be received. 10-1 reports, 10-1-1 report number FDO 6/2025, Fire Department Incident Response Summary, May 2025. 10-1-2 report number FIN 09/2025, Annual Treasurer Statement on the continuity of the Development Charges Reserve Fund as of December 31st, 2024. 10-1-3 report number FIN 10/2025, Annual Treasurer Statement on the continuity of the Parkland Reserve Fund as of December 31st, 2024. And 10.2 information items. 10.2.1 communications and correspondence. A, resolution received from the Region of Waterloo regarding the 2026 plan and budget process and principles. B, resolution received from the Town of LaSalle regarding Northern Health Travel Grant Program. C, resolution received from the Township of Saginaw regarding a request to the province to increase the Ontario Works rate to match ODSP rate increases. And D, resolution received from the Township of Archipelago regarding Bill 5, Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act. And 10.2.2 advisory committees, Ward 3 Town Hall meeting minutes dated May 22, 2025.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. So 11.2.1, report number BB 26/2025, request to waive the cultural heritage impact assessment for 92 Hall Street. Lone man walking. Any members of the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, councillors, any questions or comments? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councillor Williamson?
Moved by myself, second by Council Oster, the PD report number 26/2025 be received, and that council waive the requirement for a cultural heritage impact assessment, GIA, for the consideration of a future consent application for the property located at 92 Hall Street.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Rod? You did very well on those words on that long motion there, Councillor Osmond.
Sorry?
You did well on the motion, the long motion, the long words. You did very well. Next, we have 11.2.2, report number PD 34/2025, exemption from site plan control process for 1081 Wright Road, Permacon, Cambridge. Any members of the public wish to speak on this? Questions of council? Can I have the motion, please, Councillor Tilly?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Roman, that PD report number 34-2025 be received and that bylaw number 3566-25 being a bylaw to further amend bylaw number 210505 site plan control bylaw to exempt the lands municipally addressed as 1081 Rife Road from the site plan control process for the purposes of reconstructing the area damaged by fire, plus a proposed minor building addition of approximately 1,455 square meters, 15,231 square feet be enacted.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Now we're at 11.2.3, report number PD 35/2025, exemption for site plan control process for 1233 Cedar Creek Road, Regional Municipality of Waterloo. Any members of the public wish to speak on this? Council, any questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please, Councilor William?
Moved by myself, by Councilor Oster, that report number PD 35/2025 be received, and that bylaw number 3567-25 being a bylaw to further amend bylaw number 2105-05 site plan control bylaw to exempt the lands from addressed as 1233 Cedar Creek Road from the site plan control process for the purpose of constructing a new water tower by the Regional Municipality of Waterloo be enacted.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Report number 11.2.4, PD 2025, removal of properties from the township's heritage inventory. Any members of the public wish to speak on this? Ms. King? Sorry, Ms. Amy?
Hello, I'm Irene Amy, and I'm vice chair of the North Dumfries Historical Advisory Committee. I just wanted to make council aware that I had an email from David Piper and I had a phone call from a member of the committee, Mary Jean Page, requesting a deferral.
Can you say why they want?
Well, apparently, it has to do with cultural heritage landscapes. And that, and the reason I don't want to talk about it is because when they were describing the situation as a member of the committee, I didn't really understand the repercussions that they were talking about. So whether these repercussions are valid, I don't know. So.
Council Williamson, Nancy Ellen.
Yeah, I think I received some emails about that as well. I think that the concern was if we remove these, whether there would be an impact on a potential CHL if we remove these properties from the heritage list. Since a CHL typically requires a certain number of significant or historical buildings within it in order to meet the standard of a CHL. So then if the question is, are we kind of like shooting ourselves in the foot or whatever? So what's the question?
C.L. McNally.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to build on comments made by Mr. Piper's correspondence, as well as others, form part of the addendums that you've included at the outset of today's meeting. So council has that correspondence as well as 3 other pieces.
Councilor William, do you have any comments on this in regards?
Madam Mayor, so the Heritage Advisory Committee was basically part of our work plan for this term was to reduce this massive list of heritage properties that was established in the early 2000s by the Heritage Committee. At that time, the Heritage Committee just used an arbitrary date of 1920. So anything before 1920 was put on the list. No vetting was really done. There was no real investigation as to whether or not the properties had any merit or would actually meet any of the requirements to be designated to put on the list. That was the approach at that time. Now we have a situation where the province is saying by January 2027, we have to get rid of those lists and we have to actually designate some properties. So the Heritage Committee, faced with this large number of properties, decided, me as chair decided that we're going to try and eliminate some properties from the list, that ones that we felt, committee, we did a lot of work on it, we felt would not be worthy of designation or would not meet the criteria set up by the province. Keeping in mind, the regard to say the email from Mr. Piper where he says the house was Chris Hadfield's grandmother's house. Well, years ago, that would qualify for a heritage destination, but now the province has changed it that you have to meet two requirements. So one, being a significant person is not enough. Now you have to say, yes, a significant person lived here, but also the house has some sort of architectural value, or it has historical value, or it has contextual value. It's not enough just to say this house was John Watson's house. It has to have more to it now. The more regulations have to be met. So the committee went through, we tried to remove the ones that we felt would not meet any of the regs. We know we probably have missed some. I'm not gonna lie, we probably made a mistake here or there, and some have already been identified or come forward. Karen Scott Booth identified one that we missed. There's another one that's contacted us today that said they want to be designated. So yeah, I understand that we're gonna miss some. What we ended up with was through the work of Deputy Clerk Eric, we ended up with a list of properties that we feel should be designated and properties that we feel have good potential to be designated. So this is still about 87 properties. That's a lot of work to accomplish in 18 months. We have 18 months left to try and get these 87 properties narrowed down to which ones we can actually designate. And it may not be, certainly won't be all 87. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, regards to the CHL, when I went with this process, I was not aware that the CHL was tied to the historic heritage inventory. Perhaps the staff can advise on that, because I did not realize this is news to me that we have to have properties on the heritage inventory list in order to have a CHL. So maybe the staff can clarify that.
Because I believe that's the question I asked just at the beginning of the meeting, and CEO McNeely, I believe you told me that they don't have to be on this. Can we please?
So, Madam Mayor, cultural heritage landscape is a fairly widely captured intermix of land use, activities, settings, features, which could include heritage resources, but it's not necessarily designated or listed heritage inventories. The vast majority of homes on our current list have no relationship to the post-study area, what I'm gonna refer to as the Sprague's CHL area. And remembering that we're north of 390 properties also. So generally speaking, at a high level, a cultural heritage landscape basically is a sense of place. Something that is unique in terms of its context, either in North Dumfries or in Ontario proper. It can include unique physical landscape elements. The clustering of distinguished heritage or cultural elements or features, which could include built form. Doesn't necessarily have to be designated under part 4. It can be unique flora, fauna. Once again, unique in the setting of North Dumfries, Ontario, unique unto itself. Archaeological findings through earlier period research. Once again, that is unique or clustering of these findings representing either colonial and or First Nation settlements or land use activity. All of these things individually or collectively are bases upon which would inform the bases for both the study area and potentially elevating to point where you would actually map it accordingly in your efficient plan, and then develop land use strategies or policies within that defined boundary in terms of how you would assess development, redevelopment opportunities, and or new, I use the word municipal undertakings. If we have a road, or the region has a road or a bridge or something, but they said it would also inform enhanced design standards reflective of whatever that CHL characteristics. No two CHL areas will be the same because everything is contextual for that specific area.
So the question I have, and then Councilor is that if it's not on the list, that doesn't stop it from being designated. Is that correct? See,
That's correct. It doesn't have to have status in terms of a heritage inventory list or a part four designation. That being said, it is easier to say, okay, properties X, Y, and Z are part of the municipal heritage inventory, and you would actually show them. But one of the first things that the study consultant would do is actually catalog, for lack of a better term, the land activity in the study area. Once again, looking at unique landforms or features or fauna, built heritage inventory. And the like.
Miss Amy, do you have any comments in regard to this, what you just heard tonight? Does it make you feel better, or are you still requesting a deferral?
I.
Oh.
Not,
Michelle?
Yep. Okay. I don't know. I was confused and, from what Mary Jean had said, if the homes are removed from the list, it could prevent the designation. So I guess I had thought as long as we're very clear that removing the homes does not impact the designation, then I hope we're not wrong.
I've got Council Williams, Council Austin, and Council Owens.
Yeah, I just want to just say thank you to the Heritage Advisory Committee. You guys have done a lot of work and, nothing, no decision, like, this is not about, and, a criticism. I'm just amazed at the work you've done and the fact that there's still 87 homes on the list that you're trying to work through. That's still quite the task, and congratulations on doing that. So I guess what my other, so it sounds like this will not impact the ability to do a CHL wherever we need to or feel the need to do so, which is amazingly good news. That was a concern when it was raised. I was worried. Would deferral of this report hold up the advisory committee in any way, Councilor Roman, or is this like, would, like, it seems like your plan of moving ahead with 87 properties is a great solid plan, but would deferral of the, you know, just keeping those homes on the list for a little while yet, we'll figure all this stuff out with that, is that a good idea, or is that gonna prevent the Heritage Advisory Committee from doing their work?
Before I, turn to Council Williams and respond with your permission.
Yeah, yeah,
Council.
please.
First, I'd like to know what would be the purpose of the deferral?
Well, it was just in case we had to do any further clarifications from the CHL, but if we don't, then I guess we're, okay. Like, that was just my concern.
Council Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yeah, it's exactly that. If it went back to the Heritage Advisory Committee for a second thought, we've already looked at this twice over 2 meetings. So if we come back to the committee as a deferral, the committee would probably take no further action. We would clarify with staff that, you know, properties that are on the heritage inventory do not have any impact on a CHL. They're only really there for either Part 4 or Part 5 designation. They're not part of a Planning Act application here for a CHL. And then we would go back to council and say that's our advice. So that's all that would happen. I'm not aware of any reason why we would need a deferral.
Council Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Councilor Roman. You've already asked one question that I've asked, that even though a house isn't on the list, they can designate. I would almost think that there'll be more people on the list that were happier to be off the list than on the list. And from your committee's experience, like, it's one thing for a house to be old, but to be culturally significant is another thing. I mean, just because something's old doesn't mean it's always culturally significant. So if you're fine tuning this list and if you're trying to get a certain amount of homes on the list, I mean, obviously, I just want to confirm with you that that was one of the criteria that your committee looked at, was the fact that, okay, these houses are on because of their age. Some of them may have just been, like, my house is old, but it's got no cultural significance. So I'm just wondering if that vetted the list a fair amount between homes that were just old, but really never had much significance. And if a particular landowner or homeowner feels that they are, they still can. Like, they're not shunned for life, like, they're not shut out of cultural heritage significance. It's just, as you mentioned, you need to get this list down to what it was intended for. So I just wanted to confirm with you that, like, that was one of your criteria when you went through, when your committee went through.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council Officer, for the question. So the part of the work that we did in the committee was we looked at the 906 regs, which are the requirements for heritage designation. So when my house was designated back in the 80s, you needed to have one of the criteria. So my criteria was my house belonged to John Watson, therefore it's designated. Today, my house would have to meet two of the regs. So it would have to say, yes, an important person lived there, but maybe it has something else going on. Maybe it has historical value because of the context of grouping of homes, its location on the street, perhaps it has some sort of architectural importance, perhaps an important architect worked on the house. These are now required to have two. So years ago, it was a lot easier to designate a house. We just go by and say, well, so-and-so lived there, so now it's designated. So now the committee has to look at it and have to have two. So there's 9 different criteria, and they're pretty specific. So the committee went through and said, I don't think this particular house, yeah, it's a beautiful house on a nice street in town, but it doesn't necessarily have meet any of the criteria. So how many do we leave on the list? Do we leave all 390 on the list and hope that we can designate all of them? Or do we try and focus on maybe 80 that have a chance of meeting 2 of the requirements? And that's how we arrived at this. So I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure.
Councillor Austin.
Yeah, yeah, very well, thanks. And the other thing is it feasibly possible to actually physically ask each one of these homeowners, do you want to be on the list? Like I'm just wondering, because I hear more about people that want to be off it than want to be on it. And I would think that if you're in an area, and the landscape and everything has cultural heritage significance, you would be more apt to want to have that area designated versus the one house that might be left on, I'm just gonna say Manley Street, for example. One house that's left on a street where all the other homes have been either torn down and or renovated to the point where they don't look anything like they did before, not because nobody cared about older homes, it's just they cared enough to fix them up so they weren't dilapidated and they could actually live in them and make them good for themselves. So yeah, I would think that you would want your list would have some meat to it if those homes really had cultural significance.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the next step, and there's been talk about public engagement. So the next step of the committee we talked about was sending out a letter to every one of these 86 properties that are left on the list. And Ms. Adney made a good suggestion that they should have a prepaid envelope so they can send back their response. They don't have to pay $10 for a stamp or whatever it costs now, and send back a response. So that's the first step in saying, hey, your house has been identified. Are you interested in designating? Let's try the friendly approach. Because as council, I don't know if we're really have our minds wrapped around the idea that we're going to go out there and force 86 houses to be designated. I really would rather be something that people buy into, people want to be part of, people want to be living in a designated house. I would give them my best pitch as to why it's amazing to live in a designated house. But beyond that, that's really the next step, is to ask for the public engagement, to get people involved. Hopefully we get some positive responses. And I've already seen a couple today, so that's great.
Councillor Austin.
And also on top of that, if some of those 200 and some odd homes that were off, if somebody came to you and say, I believe we should be on it, I would assume that the committee would meet at one of their meetings and say, okay, so-and-so wants their house left on the list or wants to be added to the list. But the homes that are taken off the list, are they going to get a letter notifying them that they're off the list? And if they choose to be on the list, to contact you?
Councillor Bowman. And then Sam.
So the discussion at the Heritage Committee meeting with the staff present was that staff felt the best thing to do was to update the website showing these properties are no longer on the list. if council desires, we can send a letter of all these 300 properties saying they're off the list, if that's council's feeling, but the Heritage Committee felt that we would just update the website, and I think they're sort of prepared to do that. Hasn't done it yet, but he's prepared to do that when, if and when this gets approved. But if council feels it's a necessary step, then certainly discuss it.
Ms. Well, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I kind of like that idea, just to let people know as well. I think that that would be something that they'd be interested in, and if they do want to go ahead and do it, and that's fantastic, and you know, if they meet qualifications. But it would be, I think it would be good, people would like to know either way probably, rather than all of a sudden it disappeared.
I'm going to give Ms. Amy another chance to speak.
One thing that Mary Jean Page told me was that if you're removed from the list, it takes 5 years to get back, to apply to be back on the list. So if council was to pass to remove them tonight, they could not get back on right away. They'd have to wait for 5 years.
CEO McNeely, did you want to confirm that?
Mayor, what Ms. Agnew just shared with you is on the second paragraph of page 60 of the staff report. It doesn't prevent moving forward with part 4 designation. However, once they're removed from the heritage inventory list, it cannot be reintroduced for the heritage inventory list for a pause of 5 years.
Council Wells.
Would it then just make a quick sense to let people know ahead of time before we go ahead and just remove them, and just send a letter, give them like a couple weeks, and then if we don't hear anything, then off it goes? Like, I don't know, it feels kind of sad, maybe.
Councilwoman.
I was going to say that, I was gonna say no, actually, but, the idea of giving them heads up, and you've already had this go through the Heritage Committee a number of times, I'm not sure if that's really necessary, but it's up to council. The Heritage, inventory of 300 properties, so it's a lot of work to go through and send out letters to every single one of the properties, so that's why we decided not to do it, but.
So I'm gonna just interject if I may for a moment. I sat on lockout from 1999 and 1997 up, and lockout was the local historical architectural society type thing. And the list was massive, and there would be 50 homes of exactly the same style and build, but some were in good shape to be designated, others were dumps. And so we decided, at that time I said, let's get it down to 5 homes that are all exactly the same, all built at the same time, and see if they can be, or put on the list at least. And that's what we first started doing with the list. Again, it doesn't present designation, but as a courtesy, should we decide to defer, we can maybe do the process of letting those know that they've been dropped off the list and see if they want to on again, before we make it final at council. And also that those that aren't on the list, make it publicly known that they can still designate. Nothing stops a designation. I can tell you to get your house off the list. If you're on it, it's really hard. We've had a ton of complaints on that over the years. Because they won't let you off the list, and it's hard to sell a house that isn't kept up, that's not designated and kept to its historical. So, so what would happen there is if we finally could not get them to agree to designate and they wanted off the list, we had to go in and photograph everything we thought was historical, so we had a record. Councilor Austin.
So just so I understand, but for you to count on it, like. The advisory committee, the Heritage Committee goes through the list. And they look at a certain amount of houses and homes or whatever and say, there's no cultural significance. So let's say they're off the list and they say, I want to get on the list. What would be the event? Like, why would you want to be on the list? Like, I'm trying to understand what it means, except that, oh, you're culturally significant. But
Actually, no.
Like, if you had to wait 5 years, like, I mean, is this like an exclusive, not exclusive club, but is this something that, is a real beneficial? Cause every time I have listened to culturally significant homes, they'd be more frustrated about fixing their homes than they have excited about fixing their homes, and it's cost them a lot more. And so I'm just wondering, like, that whole scenario, why.
Councilwoman,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yeah, responding to Councilor Osler, the whole intention of the list historically was that we would have this big list, and that's what the committee would draw upon to move forward with designations, Part 4 designations, or in some cases, Part 5 designations, like as in Greenfield. But the province has said, enough having these giant lists that just sort of perpetuate, go on and on and on, but never get dealt with. Province said, no, we want this dealt with by 2027. And what other municipalities are doing is they're either going through the list and designating 2 or 3 houses every month. That's what some places are doing. Other ones I've heard of are just putting their heads in the sand and let the entire list lapse. And when it lapses in 2027, as Irene pointed out, 5 years are all off the list. So we could just take our list, ignore it, we can not discuss it anymore. And in 2027, the entire list, including any house that could be designated or any house that should not be designated, the entire list will lapse and then not be allowed to be back to be reestablished for 5 years. So that's the alternative. So facing that, I didn't want to let it lapse. I thought we should try as a committee to try and see if we can salvage something and designate something. Quite honestly, if we defer this and push this back to the committee, I think the committee's probably just gonna walk away and let the thing lapse. And then I'll be sitting here at the end of the next council saying, well, heritage list is gone. So I don't know what to do, because I would really like to try and get something worthwhile designated. I don't want to be saddled, I don't want to saddle the committee with 300+ properties that are going to say this is overwhelming. There's already discussion around the Heritage Committee table about, do we need to hire consultants? I know the township had talked about putting $80,000 in the budget to hire consultants to try and, wean down the list. $80,000 wouldn't get us very much. So, we're trying to find some meaningful way to move the list forward and to make it relevant. But it goes back to committee. I don't know what the committee's gonna do with that.
if I can interject, one question was, why would you want to be on the list? If you're on the list, you can brag about having a historical house and your heritage, and we're on the heritage list, but you don't have to fix it up. You don't have to fix it up to the level that you designate. So an example is, the Carnegie Bank downtown, the library. So when he wanted to replace the windows, he'd have to do them exactly the same as the originals that were first put in when it was first built, which was a huge expense. So we said, well, because of winters and everything else, can I put them that look exactly the same, but aren't the same? They had meet better criteria for having windows. And he went through massive meetings and massive reports and expense, and we finally approved that he could. But see, if you're designated, you can't change anything in your house without permission, and following what was originally there. If you're on the list, you can do whatever you want to a house because you're not designated yet, but you can still claim it as a heritage house. So that's the two difference. Councilor Rose.
So through you, and to Councillor Rowland, there was a couple people that have reached out that were saying, oh, this was our property was being removed by mistake or whatever. If we go ahead, should we remove them from the report before we vote on that? Or and this is where I'm like, this is just coming up in the last day, which is why I'm concerned. I don't want the Heritage Advisory Committee to get the idea that their work is this is why I want them to focus on those 87 properties. But I also want to make sure we give the community maybe a bit more time. Would it be possible to just say, Heritage Advisory, please focus on those 87 properties, get them, go through that process, let's try to get them as many designated as people will want. But maybe sit on this for like just give it a month or so. I don't know. I understand that, I don't want the advisory committee to walk away either because they do very important work here and it's good work. So
Councilor Tully.
I would just like to restate what Councilor Rome said, is that I would definitely not want to see the Heritage Committee having to do any additional work at this point with what they've already done. But if this was approved to defer the choice to remove at this point, until a given time period, a couple weeks, a month, whatever time period may be, and then allow that to come back, at least it would give that opportunity for people who might have been concerned. Do you, Councilor, Roman, do you have any concerns in, from your position that, that maybe people might be frustrated if they found out later on and they just weren't given notice that that all of a sudden they were removed? Is that something, because that's actually where I'm, a lot of weight is, if you have very little concern, then, I mean, then I probably don't have a lot of concern, to be honest.
Councilor,
Madam Mayor, I wasn't really concerned about it prior to this meeting, but now that it's been raised. I guess rather than deferring, what I would like to see us do is send that letter out to those properties that we're talking about removing from them. To send them a letter saying your property's been identified to be removed from the list. If you feel there's some reason why this is an error or a mistake, could you please, mail back to us, or you contact the township, contact Eric Bell, right? Deputy Brett, that's your job. And, by a certain date, a certain deadline, and then at least that we get really comfortable, and then at least we know that we've notified everybody, identified that they're off the list. And then they have a chance to respond. We've already had 2 tonight, maybe a few more will come out of the woodwork. I think that might be a good compromise.
I was going to recommend that a deferral, but with a time frame to mid-September, and I'll tell you why. People are starting to go on vacations or holidays. That a letter be sent out, as you have just stated, and they respond back in justification of why it should be on the list. And then, it's your September meeting or whatever.
Yep.
You will analyze all of those and decide, yes, we'll add them, or no, we won't, in justification. Eric will then have to respond to those that requested to go back on. If you don't get a response from somebody, they're not interested. And then, at our late September meeting or October, whatever you decide, whatever the next meeting is. We will address the new list that you've got based upon public input. And that way, so it's a deferral, but a deferral with a plan to bring it back, not to redo the whole list, but just to give them the public. Council Williams.
Yeah, and in the meanwhile, that the Heritage Advisory Committee just keep going with their 87. Just like that, don't hold up that work, based on this, please, yeah.
So, Councillor Austin, the motion. Do we want to amend the motion? Wait a minute. So authorize me, we'll go that, so we're not gonna authorize it, we'll go, so, PD report number be received. And that, and we're gonna scratch 2 and 3. All right, so we're gonna do number 1, and 2 and 3, we're gonna scratch, and that, notification will be sent to those who are on the complete list. Just the amended list? The complete list, CO McNeely.
Or when you mean complete list, do you mean all 300 plus properties, or do you mean the ones that are only on appendix A to this report?
I'm talking on 300. Did you want just the report?
I
We have
would,
a separate letter for the other one.
Oh, you do have a separate letter?
there's a
Okay.
different letter
For the
for
other,
those 89 homes. Because the committee, based on their meetings, have deemed that there are aspects that would likely move it toward the potential of a class 4, part 4 designation. And as such, their package is gonna be slightly different.
okay,
It's going to say, initial screening has identified whatever. And, we wish to, with your support, to look at moving this forward toward a higher level of evaluation in accordance with criteria of the Ontario reg. And is there a willing partner? So it's a totally different focus versus these initial properties that the committee in appendix A have identified as not meeting that initial screening level. So if you're going to do this letter coming out of tonight's meeting, my advice would be to council that properties listed on appendix A to this report being PD report 3625. The letter sent to those property owners. Inquiring as to whether or not they wish to be considered. For future heritage designation
Or removed.
or removed from the list. And then we would, just so you're aware, if they don't respond by a certain date, I would look 6-8 weeks out from the present period. A silence is deemed to be non-interest. And your third recital would be the committee would then reassess properties where people have identified an interest. And a report will be returned to council in the fall.
Perfect. And that is everybody's.
So, I have a question.
Councillor Austin,
Sorry. Would it expedite things a little bit more if we kept number 2 as like, and the council, like something that, and the council authorized the removal of the properties listed on Appendix A to this report from the township's listed heritage inventory, and that a letter be sent to these homes with the decision of council notifying them of the removal from the list unless they respond, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Checked.
Jack.
CO McNeely,
That way we don't have to come back to council again with another, okay, we didn't hear from them, so can we do this now? Because that sounds like a deferral.
CO McNeely,
So, Madam Mayor, my concern is if you remove them from the list now,
that's it, yeah.
then they're off the list.
Yeah.
So that first statement was a definitive, taking them off the list. Unless they later tell you that they want to be on the list, but you've already removed them from the list.
So
the
they
way
have
that
to
was
be 5
worded.
years.
And that would automatically create that 5-year
Yeah.
pause. As set out in the amended legislation.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to give people an opportunity to weigh in that they're on the list and specific to their individual property. You're better to approach that council's considering removal of their property from the heritage inventory list. And that you're seeking their thoughts as to whether or not they believe their property building has cultural or heritage significance. And they wish to be considered for further review of the merits under the Ontario Heritage Act.
Councillor Austin,
So if we worked with, I'm just trying to think of, like, because it sounds more like a deferral than a decision. So, like if we worked with this one and say that, if you notify us within 30 days, we will keep your home on the list, like, rather than, you know, to me, the other way sounds like a deferral.
it's not necessarily because, it actually is a deferral until, they've been notified. So, Ms. Sage, can you read out the, no? Can you please read out Ms. Good? Ms. Good, can you read out the motion? Oh, Councillor Rowland.
One thing that council can keep in mind though is the list is going to cease to exist in 2027. So saying to people, if you want to stay on the list, it's not really being honest because the list is going to vanish. So what you're really saying is we're taking you off the list. If you feel this is an error, then notify us and we'll put you on the new list to be designated. That's really what we're saying, because we're not going to be resurrecting the list. The list is going to be gone. So if we're saying to somebody, hey, we're taking you off the list. They say, well, no, I want to stay on the list. Well, the only reason to stay on the list is to become designated. So we can't just stay on the list just for the sake of being on the list. The list is going to be gone. So we're going to get rid of the list. And then we're going to move you to the new list, which is the properties that are being researched to be designated under Part 4. So if you want to be Part 4, then that's the responsibility.
CO McNeely.
And that's why I said for potential consideration, because just because you want your home designated in Part 4, you still have to meet the criterion of at least 2 of the 9 as set out in the Ontario regulation. Because we have to, as part of the bylaw, if you recall, some of our designation bylaws, we have a Schedule A that gives the context and the bases of why this property is worthy of designation. And of equal importance, we identify what is being protected and preserved, because you may not be doing the entire exterior of the house. You may be doing a certain elevation. You could be doing the fireplace, the chimneys. You could be doing the windows. That's why you've got to go through the screening process to make sure the criteria, because your bylaw has to be very precise in terms of what are you trying to protect or conserve.
Maybe in the opening paragraph of the document, you can say, the list is being, done, use a different word. For the purposes of designation, after the designations, there won't be a list. Would you still like to be on the list? And your commitment to being on the list is committing to designate. Be very clear. Councilor Lawson.
So likewise, if you're on the list and they get that letter, do they have the choice whether they want to be on it or off it? Or are you saying, no, we've chosen your house and so you can opt out? What?
Sorry, are you talking about the 87 that the
That
committee
you want to
picked?
keep, yeah, because you're gonna send a separate letter to them saying that you're staying. What if one of those homes or several of those homes, the residents contact you, say, no, I don't want to be on this list anymore.
Councilor Goldman.
Madam Mayor, so I'm sure the CEO can advise on this, but essentially council has the statutory right to designate the property. So if the Heritage Committee says this house, Derek's house should be designated because his house is very important and meets two of the regs. And Derek says, no, I do not want to have my house designated. Council does have the authority to overrule him and designate it. But the question is, are we going to do that? I would rather not do that. I would rather be in a position where we're going to voluntarily designate the properties. But when we come to that crossroads, we'll have to, as a council, decide if we're going to force someone's hand.
CEO McNally.
So, Madam Mayor, just to add on to Councillor Rowland's statement. Yes. Councillor Rowland is quite correct. Council, if they believe that the property meets two or more of the criteria and has significant contextual architecture or cultural significance, and as I said, meets at least two of the criteria under the Ontario reg, Council can force the issue of the adoption of a Part 4 bylaw under the Act. We have to give notice of intent to designate, so minimum 30-day period. And any individual, including the property owner, in that 30-day period can basically file an objection to the notice to intent. And ultimately, if there is an objection, then the bylaw would be sent to the Conservation Review Board, which is now a subset of the Ontario Land Tribunal. And there would be a hearing on the merits of the bylaw and the technical aspects that have gone through to justify the premise of the designation. It has been the past practice of Township Council that you don't have a willing landowner, you have not pursued the Part 4 designation, even if the property met one or more of the criteria in support of the Part 4 designation. So I'm assuming that the committee was saying on the 89 properties that are called the gleaned list, where there is some thoughts that the property meets some aspect, not having done the technical review. They're seeing if there's a willing landowner. I'm assuming that if, let's say, only 5 of the properties come back and say, yep, we're all in, we'll have to bring a report, and the committee wishes to deal with those other 84 properties in that scenario. Council's gonna have to signal what is your expectations related to that next lot. And the focus would be, let's just say, on those 5 homes, if you've got a willing landowner. You haven't gone that far yet. But that will be the next watershed decision of Township Council, will be how aggressive do you want to be in the consideration of potential Part 4 designations if you have a landowner that is not willing participant.
So I have a question here. So we have the list. All right. So we're gonna inform people they're on the list. Is there a time, you said there's a time when the list will no longer end in 2027. So at that time. So if you truly want to designate, you have to be on the list, and if you don't, you can get off.
You do not need to be on the heritage list
Correct.
to go through a Part 4 designation. We have been using that as a resource to focus the efforts of the committee to reach out to strategic landowners. But you do not have to be on the heritage inventory list to pursue a Part 4 designation. It's an independent process. What the heritage inventory list does in the present period is, if you as a property owner wish to demolish a property that's on the heritage inventory list, there's an automatic pause. Because it gives council, on the recommendation of the advisory committee, the ability to entertain a Part 4 designation and frustrate the ability to issue the demolition permit. It is also appealable by the landowner. So that's one key aspect of being on the list. It is a control mechanism in part to give a pause if there's a threat to the building, and we haven't necessarily gone through that comprehensive review. The second is where we have a planning act application. We go through the process of, is there a need to look at a cultural heritage impact assessment? Whether it be an adjacent property, the property itself, or then perhaps a clustering. We just went through that earlier tonight on Hall Street. If you don't have either the property or around in the property, listed properties or designated properties, that's part of our required studies. We wouldn't be listing heritage inventory list. Okay. So that is really what the basis of a listing has been in the past period. The role and function is changing as we move forward because the province of Ontario wishes to streamline and accelerate the building of new homes. And they felt that municipalities were using this heritage inventory list as a weapon to frustrate or slow down development opportunities.
And I understand that, but I also understand the need for something like the list to check so that we're not flipping down historical. So in 2027, if the list doesn't exist, does that mean if there's a house that is historical, that it won't have to go through a CHIA or anything else?
That's correct. Unless it's a designated structure, either with a Part 4 classification, or if it's in a heritage conservation district that's been designated under Part 5 of the law.
Okay, you said a whole article on this intent, because this is big. This is big. I mean, some of the nice homes that we talked about tonight that you're gonna ask for designation. Should those older people sell that house? That can be gone in a minute because it's not designated, and if it was 2027. We wouldn't have this is between a rock and a hard place. Can you read the motion, please, Ms. Good?
That PD report number 36-2025 be received, and that notification be sent to those who have been identified as being removed from the listed heritage inventory as identified by the Heritage Advisory Committee, to whether those property owners would like to be removed from the listed heritage inventory or would like to pursue being considered for a Part 4 designation under the Ontario Heritage Act, and that an updated listed heritage inventory be brought back to Township Council in the fall of 2025 to authorize the removal of properties from the Township listed heritage inventory, and that the Heritage Advisory Committee be advised of this direction from Council.
Any comments about the motion? Look okay? Okay, that's for Councillor Osment and Councillor Tilly 2 seconds. Nope, it wasn't. Who was it?
It was me.
Yeah, you're right. They're on the next one. Can we have a motion, please, Councillor Austin?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Tilly. Besides everything we just said. PD report number 36-2025 be received, and that notification be sent to those who have been identified as being removed from the listed heritage inventory as identified by the Heritage Advisory Committee, to whether those property owners would like to be removed from the listed heritage inventory or would like to pursue being considered for a Part 4 designation under the Ontario Heritage Act. And that an updated listed heritage inventory be brought back to Township Council in the fall of 2025 to authorize the removal of properties from the township's listed heritage inventory, and that the Heritage Advisory Committee be advised of this direction from council.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Back to this, to pursue. No, just, okay. It's fine. Excellent discussion, council, and thank you, Ms. Aidney, for giving that forward to us. Next, we have report 11.2.5, PD 37/2025, discussion papers, Bill 17, Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act 2025. Any members of the public? Any members of council? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councillor Williams?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Tilly, that PD report number 37-2025 be received, and that council authorize staff to submit comments to the province to the Environmental Registry of Ontario, Regulatory Registry of Ontario on matters of concern attributed to Bill 17, Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act 2025, as identified in this PD report 37-2025. And that the township welcomes continued discussion and consultation with the province on pending matters that are set out in the technical briefing paper as released on May 12, 2025, and that staff participate in these future opportunities, and that this report and the adopted resolution of council be forwarded to Brian Riddell, MPP Cambridge, for his review and consideration.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next, we have 11.2.6, report number PW 07/2025, construction phase NDCC, net zero twin pad, arena design and contract administration, and members of the public. Councilors, any questions or comments? Councilor Russell.
Sorry, I'm just moving to the proper part of the report. Financial implications. That $531,000. At first I panicked and I thought that that's what they were charging because the design changed. There is an element of design change that is going to cost us. So I wondered if CEO McNeely, question number one, had that number, if he knows out of $531,000, how much of that is going to be design change. And the other thing is Moon Mats, are they overseeing this whole project rather than our staff? And it says they base it on a percentage of the overall construction cost, but it excludes a construction manager fees, a contingency amount, which is a FF&E, which I wasn't quite sure what that was. So and talking about how the costs could fluctuate. I don't want to be in a position where we were, sorry, I'm switching glasses because these ones are terrible to read with, but now I can see there's a council in front of me. I don't want to get stuck into the same problem we had with the NDCC when we built this building. We had an architect design it, And then we had a construction company build it. Anytime there's an error, like when they were building a wall in one of the dressing rooms and they came down and said, what's that wall for? I have no idea. It's in the plan. It's not supposed to be there. Why is this beam here? Like, why is it so low? Why is this? Why is that? Oh, they forgot to put siding on the side because there's supposed to be a twin pad. That's what the original design. So now you take the twin pad off, you've got a bare wall. So that's an extra cost. So those are things that are not the responsibility of a construction company. They're the responsibility of the architect. And we need to learn from our mistakes. Well, it's driving me crazy. We need to learn from our mistakes. And I don't want to be in the same position. I want to be covered. If this company, Moon Mats, is designing this for us, if they're overseeing it for us and we're paying them for all that stuff, I certainly don't want to be sitting here, 2 years from now, looking over what we looked over the last time. I want to ensure that if we're moving ahead with this company, because there's two ways for the sake of the new council, I don't know what you know or not about building and stuff like that, but there's two ways of doing it. You get an architect to design it, you put it out to tender, and you get bids, and you choose a construction company. The other one is hiring a company that designs and builds. The advantage, we use that for the outside. When I was the head of the outdoor needs assessment committee, and I got kept on with through the building process when bills had to be paid. I knew every dollar and cent and every aspect that went into that field in the back because I was involved with it. And we chose, as a committee, we chose the design build. So we had Gateman Malloy. We hired them. We told them what we wanted. We did some revisions. This is what we want to do. They designed it, they built it. Now, if they look at it and say, oh, gee, I forgot this, it's not on us. It's on them because they designed it. That seems to be the preferred method moving forward for a lot of companies now. There were 3 ice pads built in Brampton that all were built under budget with design build, not architect tender.
So let's let Sam answer your questions first, okay? Because you're getting into deep and we get into that later. but-
Yeah, I know.
But-
My point is, this is where this question is coming from with all the information surrounding it, because if I just come up with one, like, I just hope we're not gonna get charged extra. That doesn't carry an awful lot of merit as to giving you the experience behind living through the pain, living through the community pain, and I don't want to live through the community pain again. So what aspect, I guess we can narrow it down to, of that aspect, do we have any idea how much of that money is going to redesign for the new ice pad? And the other thing is, when it says excludes construction manager fees, contingency amount, FF&E, and HST, is that an arbitrary number, or do we have any idea what that number might look like?
Stan,
So Mayor, before I hand it over to Mr. Raycroft. There's actually a third construction model, and it's construction manager. Council in August 2024 authorizes to move forward with construction manager from the process. And it's sort of a blend between the two scenarios that you gave us. And most larger buildings, especially in the private sector, are done on the construction management build environment. But I'll let Mr. Raycroft speak to what Moon Mats' role will be in the context of the next phase, which has 2 elements. One is to finish redrawing key portions of the building, because the building is now different in its context from what council dealt with in August of 2024, which was the end of their responsibilities under their original contract. And what they will be doing as the second part of their equation as it relates to contract administration, and dealing with change orders, or variances that may come up during the construction phase.
through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. There's actually more construction methods at 3, but we'll just stop at that. Construction management is a more collaborative approach to the process. We do like design build. We use design build, excuse me, to build the PW yard. The PW min building was built through design build. You don't normally design the building in advance though, as this project was. But because this project was designed to apply for grants and have shovel-ready drawings, so we could apply for grant opportunity, which we did, we were successful. The drawings were done. So in theory, had the drawings not changed, we could have just went to tender on those drawings, and GCs would have built that, or would have did that and then built that facility. This, to answer the first question, this percentage is based on the construction value. So it doesn't, for example, we're going to be hiring a construction manager. We don't pay architectural fees on top of their fees. That's why it says excluding that. It's just based on the construction value, which is included in the $16 million amount that council approved. So there'll be a fee for an architect doing design changes. I don't have the value of how much is design change and how much will be contracted. And a lot of it is time based. We're anticipating this to take 16, 18 months roughly. FF&E is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So obviously we don't have to pay architectural fees on hockey nets and square clocks and things that we buy, tables and chairs, things that go into the building. That's exclusive of that. We don't pay architectural fees on HST, so it's only on the construction value, which is estimated to be, I'm sure Andy will correct me later, but I think it's around 13.25 million. The difference in the value that can change, in order for something to change on the project, they got to go through me. So I will project manage this, as I have in previous projects. I've done various models and used different models, and we've used this one to do a large renovation in a previous life. It works very well. There will be changes, or could be changes, and hopefully there's not. And we hope there won't be. In the PW design build process, we had bad soils, and there wasn't a lot we could do about that. That cost us a significant amount of money to fix that, because the contractor's not responsible for that. So, we're not anticipating a lot of issues. The contract or the construction manager will review the drawings before they go out as well, which is helpful. We're going to make sure that we double check the values as they go out. We're going to ask the construction manager to do a B-level costing one more time before we finalize everything. And then the tenders will go out in format. So if we run into a problem, and we have on previous projects, we value engineer at that point as well. We look for alternate options that we can do. This is something we will manage. We'll continue to manage. We have a contingency. We have no plan to use it unless we really have, unless it's necessary to use that. So we have a budget set by council. This value is included in that budget. It's not in addition to that. We're just moving forward with the next phase, which is to hire Mats to revise the drawings and then move into contract with him once we start putting the 10% to the street.
So before you speak, Councillor Austin, we had the perfect storm. We had an individual that was not on council, not a part of the township staff, who came in and made changes to the design with, and the builder allowed it, which shocked me beyond control. We had to actually go out and hire a manager to make sure these things get done again. It cost us an additional $800,000. So we were in the perfect storm back then. I have total faith in Mr. Whitworth. He, I think, is brilliant, and CEO McNeely. But you're right, we have to ask the questions. We have to make sure we're getting good, solid information and make sure that this project doesn't go away. Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, that's not what's in question. What's in question is I'm just, when I see it excludes the construction manager fees. And the fact that it's not like we're adding anything to the building, we're actually deleting to the building. So I'm hoping that the architect fees will be minimal, because when you add, you have to design and you have to continue with designs and stuff. So with the infrastructure, etc., pipes, whatever. So I would assume that cost. I mean, as long as we're coming hopefully under budget, it's okay. It's just, I'm worried when there's clauses or there's things that excludes construction manager fees. Does that mean, what does that mean and what does it do to the budget? Mr. Raycroft is saying that this is all part of and it says there that it's all part of the 16.1 million. So I'm just going on record as saying I don't want to be in the same position we were on the last one. And these are things that hopefully are going to be watched because they weren't very well watched last time. And I just don't want to be, like I said, sitting here and begging for reserve money because oops, we did it again.
And Mr. Ringo, I want to echo what Councillor Osler said, because that individual should have never been allowed into the building while it was being constructed and made changes to the extent that it cost us a great fortune.
You, Madam Mayor, I absolutely agree, and we will manage this very, very tightly. That doesn't give me a great deal of concern. What I can't tell you today is if tariffs and stuff will impact the cost of steel, for example. So we don't know where we are today in terms of costings. We'll know when we go out. Assuming things don't go radically different on us, we should be fine. If the price of steel goes up 25% because the tariff came in or something happened, we will let council know, but we're not anticipating that's going to be the case. If it is the case, we have a contingency amount, we're going to have to work within that. So we will do everything we can to manage this within budget. I always joke with Andrew that I could either give it to you under budget or on time, but you can't have both. So we won't rush to get this done. We'll make sure we do this right, and we'll make sure that this, from a value perspective, that we deliver it honoring the budget. And we will obviously do our best to do that every single time.
CEO McNally.
So, Madam Mayor, I also want to make sure council has a cautionary note. Don't change the scope of the project. Because you come to us in 2 months' time and say, oh, can we incorporate X, Y, or Z? And it wasn't part of the framework that we talked about on May 26th. That's where you start changing the terms of the work. And that can quickly either extend the project, cause you to go back and redo aspects of the drawings, and or add additional costs that were never part of the original scope that informed a budget estimate, in this case of approximately 16.1 million.
So your response to our request will be no. Councillor Rowland.
Members, just following up with this, and I guess the question I have is for staff, to what extent will council be advised of change orders? I know when the Councillor Ross was referring to when this building was built, a lot of change orders went through and they were not, council was not notified. And as a result, there's a lot of over budget. So I'm just curious, what process does Mr. Raycroft have in place to address change orders?
Mr. Raycroft.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. So we track change orders. They have to come through first as a contemplated change order. Change orders come through either as a contractor driven change order, or they come as an owner driven change order, owner being town representative, for example. We don't have any plans to do change orders. We're not going to change the color of anything or add tile here or change this to marble. That's not going to happen. So unless we have something driven from that comes up as a condition of site or something that changes things, we're not anticipating having a problem with change orders. Change orders again will come through as a contemplated change order. They'll be reviewed by the team. They'll be double checked, and then we will get a value for that change order if necessary, and then we'll sign off on that change order itself. And they can't get a payment on the change order until it's been approved by myself, signed off by both the architect as well as myself. We will track those change orders. We do in every project. There has been change orders on virtually every project that I've worked on. But we do our best to minimize those change orders, and they only get changed from a contemplated change order to a true change order unless it's absolutely necessary to do so. So we will do our best. Sometimes we're actually taking value, we're reducing the value of the contract. The contractors can come back and say, hey, listen, we can use this type of product versus this product. It's actually a little bit cheaper. That will force a change order, because obviously we're going down in value. So anything up or down off the original contract that was proposed could result in a change order. We will continue to track those. If the council would like us to come back and give you updates on a regular basis with respect to progress of the project as well as the change orders, we're happy to do that for council.
CEO Healy and Councilor Roman.
So, Madam Mayor, just to follow up the last statements made by Mr. Raycroft. If it will be of assistance to council, our staff can bring quarterly reports. Remembering this is a 16 to 18 month period, a moment of break through the commissioning of the facility in its future form. But if council wishes, we can bring this quarterly reports in open session. And the report would generally talk about, what's been achieved in this, I'll call period of time. In terms of key milestones and deliverables. It would identify where we are in relationship to budget. It would speak to any issues that arose and key issues that arose and how they were dealt with. It would talk about what is proposed for the next quarter in terms of key milestones that we hope to achieve in the next quarter. And that will provide council with a continuum progress related to the overall build of this new complex.
See no further questions, Council. Do you have a question? Councilor Roman, did you have an arm for that? Okay, Councilor Roman and then Councilor Tim.
Madam Mayor, so the other concern I have is, since this is a community used building and the community seems to, build this building as their building. How are staff gonna handle, let's call them friendly suggestions by user groups or by vested interests? I know it happens all the time. Well, if we just put this amazing sauna in here, or if we put this weight room in here or whatever, those things are gonna come up all the time. And they're either gonna be pressuring members of council or they'll be trying to go directly to staff. So I'm just wondering, how are we gonna deal with the various user groups, the various friendly suggestions that might come our way?
Should they want to pay for it completely? No. Go ahead, Mr. Raycroft.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I'll cut off the sale at this point. The answer is no. We are going into finalized drawings now. Council's already approved the concept drawings. They approved the shovel-ready drawings and they've approved the concept drawings. The answer is going to be no. Unless it's a construction-driven change order as a result of conditions on site or something else that could come up, and that's very rare.
Availability of materials.
We had to sub the material though, because steel's not available, so we're gonna build that wood, so kind of happen, but the reality is it's not gonna happen. We don't take friendly suggestions. We stop being friendly when we start building. You don't want to be in construction forever when we're chatting. The answer is no. Front to back, the answer is no. Won't have a problem with that.
Councilor Terry.
Just in regards to the number that we're talking about for moon mats, is that the issuing of a PO at this point, and then there'd be a project payment schedule with that, or is that how is this dollar amount? It's gonna be due to some obviously driving inflation levels, or is it just the issue of PO? I'm just curious, how fast is this money leaving our accounts?
Madam Mayor, like any contract, there is a structured contract with the architect, in this case, in terms of what the deliverables will be, what the payment is tied to. And there are progress draws during the term of the 16 to 18 month period, because they've got things right through to the commissioning period. Okay, so it's not front loaded. There will be draws throughout the term of the contract. And as I said, the scope of work, the tasks, how they're paid, when they're paid, are all part of that base contract.
Seeing no further questions, can I have a motion, please, Councilor Terry?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Asner, that PW report number 07-2025 be received, and the council award the design and contract administration for the construction of the NDCC Twin Pad Net Zero Arena project to Moon Mats Limited, valued at 4% of the construction cost, estimated to be $531,360 plus HST, and that the mayor clerk be authorized to sign all agreements necessary for this work.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next, we have number 12, Mayor and Councilors Report, Councilor Hosmer, comment regarding the ACC funding models and the ACC major rehabilitation project as part of the August 13th special council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me.
So basically the titles gives you a good idea of what I'm asking. I was a little upset that the funding has not been kept in place for the ACC. However, I'm hoping that moving forward, come special capital forecast, special budget meeting, whatever. I want council to consider using more of the money from the land sale in Cambridge so that we can actually confirm to our community that yes, we are serious about restoring the ACC, and that we are going to replenish the funding that has been lost to do that work. And I want the community to be at ease that we're not thinking about fixing the ACC, that we're actually serious. Because I've got 2 pages of notes here, but to be honest with you, I think I'd open a can of worms if I said 3/4 of it. So I'm not going to say 3/4 of it. I'm going to, what I did write down at the end, I said, this way, we're taking care of our assets and showing the community that we really are seriously committed, not only to hockey in this community, but to dry sports, to daycare, to seniors, to possibly our history, like we've got room in that ACC for so many different things. We just need to expand from sports. We need to expand from sports. This town is also always in need and longed for a museum. We could do so much in that central area of the community, and it's accessible. So I know that a lot of people in this community are very upset with the question mark that is now hanging over that. So, hopefully we can get some funding. But on top of the government funding, I want us to secure a safety net around the community to let them know that we are serious about what we're talking about and what we say we're going to do, because so many times in politics, what's said is not done. So I don't want us to be that council. I want us to be here for the community, and I'm bringing this forth for our community because they feel very strongly about it, and I feel very strongly about it. So I'm asking the rest of council. We have money coming, and I want that to be the blanket for us to rest on.
So staff has been so directed for the August meeting to show the potentials for using different funding models to cover the ACC and the rehabilitation, because council is committed to this. As we stated the other night, we are committed to rehabilitating the ACC. And it'll be a magnificent facility when we're done in my hopes and dreams.
Can be, yeah.
And I think we should strive for that. I really do. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, so the motion, Councilor Roman, do you want to read the motion, please?
Moved by myself, by Councilor Tilly, that a statement from Councilor Oster related to a discussion as part of the August 13, 2025 special council meeting on funding strategies for the NDCC Twin Pad project and the ACC major exterior rehabilitation project be received for the purpose of implementation.
And implement the potential implementation. All those in favor? Okay, bylaws. What's their Arsenal, please?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Grams, that the following bylaws be read first and second time. 17.1, bylaw number 3566-25. Being a bylaw to exempt certain lands within the municipality from site plan control. 17.2, bylaw number 3567-25. Being excuse me, a bylaw to exempt certain lands within a municipality from site plan control. 17.3 bylaw number 3568-25 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on June 2nd, 2025.
Does Councilwoman want to declare? No?
So Madam Mayor, no, these have to deal with the Permacon property on
Oh,
Rife Road and the water tower at the Regents Building on Smith Beach. It has nothing to do with 92 Boston.
thank you. All those in favor? Carry, thank you. Councilor Wilms, please.
Made by myself, seconded by Council Osmer, the bylaw number 3566-25, 3567-25, and 2568-25. Be read a third and final time and be signed, sealed by mail and vote.
All those in favor? Carry, thank you. And who gets the adjournment? Councilor Tilly.
Move by myself, second by Council Roman, that whereas business before the council meeting has been completed at 7:30 PM, then be it resolved this meeting is adjourned.
All those in favor? Carry, thank you.